Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless, Shannon Sharp. Hi, guys.
Hi, Jenny.
How you doing, Skip?
Yeah, well, I was a little disappointed in Hard Knocks last night.
Why are you disappointed?
Raiders couldn't quite live up to the Browns of last year, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But you know what I was thinking?
What were you thinking?
Next year, Hard Knocks should do behind the scenes at Undisputed. Then we could see what old Shay Sharp is really like behind the scenes.
Nah, they don't need to see all that.
Yeah, if you think Aaron Rodgers is a diva, woohoo!
They don't need to see all
Love
that.
to see that.
They don't need to see all that.
Yep.
Would you be up for that?
Yeah,
Behind
I'm
the
open.
scenes?
I'm an
Let's
open
do
book
it.
over here.
Nah, that old nautical Nancy won't.
Oh,
everybody
really?
see what's going-
Nautical Nancy.
Yeah.
Really?
Hey, Skip, you know what? I got a suit just like that one.
Do you? I'm going to burn this one.
Whatever. You go.
Boy.
After the show.
Jeez.
That's a new one, too, huh? Okay. Is that a new one?
Somebody is obsessed with
Is that a new suit?
apparel.
Skip,
I've worn it once on the air, and you didn't notice.
3 years ago.
Okay.
That's how you got it like that. huh?
Fired from Shannon
What's-
already. We got a lot to get to on today's show. Why is Tom Brady leaving Boston? And why is LeBron going after the NCAA? But we are going to
That's a good
start
question.
with Skip's Cowboys. There is still plenty of contract drama surrounding the Cowboys. Ezekiel Elliott is still holding out, but some in the media don't think it's that big of a deal. ESPN's Bill Barnwell says he thinks Zeke's impact on the offense is overstated, citing C.J. Anderson replacing Todd Gurley last season as an example, while ESPN's Todd Archer said Amari Cooper is more important to Dak Prescott than Zeke because the, quote, Cowboys control the tempo with the running game, but points come in the passing game. So, Shannon, is there any truth to this?
Absolutely none.
None.
Absolutely
None,
not,
says
Skip.
Shannon Sharp.
Because I believe Zeke opens everything up, Skip. He's the drink. Now, if you want to say Dak is what stirs it, okay, fine, have at it. But he's the actual drink itself. You see, Skip, the problem that I have is that how you take one isolated situation. You told, C.J. Anderson. Okay, C.J. had a couple of good games. But the difference is, it's kind of like
He had 3 good games. Be careful because you left off the game.
No, Skip.
Right?
I was in a very similar situation.
Yeah.
Because when we were the Broncos, come in after TD got hurt, and you had Mike Anderson go for 1,500. You had Clinton Porter go for 1,500.
Okay, but those are quality backs behind a really good offensive line and a great system.
But they couldn't run us to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
That's the difference. That guy can run you to the Super Bowl. Mike Pollard and whomever they drafted, Skip, and
Tony
Pollard.
Yeah, that's
Excuse me. And they got the guy Alfred Morris. They signed him from well, he was a free agent. He was there a couple of years ago, and so when Zeke was suspended, he filled in quite nicely. But Skip, he's not Zeke. Zeke commands. You go into a game, Skip. I'm almost 100% for certain that when defenses face the Dallas Cowboys, the defensive coordinator goes up there on a Wednesday and he says, "Guys, we're taking Zeke Elliott out of the ball game." That's their great game plan. And that's a lot easier said than done because Zeke, because they have, Skip, they have 3 first-round offensive linemen. They have a dominant offensive line. Their intent is to run the football. And then everything after that comes off the run. They play action. They can run the zone read. They can boot. They can do all of those things, Skip. And I'm not trying to minimize Dak. I'm not trying to minimize Amari. But if you think for 1 second that Zeke Elliott is not the engine that runs this Cowboys offense, you're sadly mistaken. And everything they've done is they built it around him. So now you're trying to devalue him because you don't want to pay him the money that he deserves. And he knows it, Skip. He's in the worst situation because Dak, Skip, is in the last year of his deal. Amari is on his option year, but he's making $14 million.
Yep.
Zeke knows now this is as good a chance, or this is his best chance, in order for him to get the contract extension that he feels he deserves, because he knows he has an option year next year, and if the Cowboys, if they so choose, 2, not 1, but 2 franchise tags. Skip, points do come out of the passing game, but if you cannot control the football, it doesn't do you any good. Ezekiel Elliott is number 1. Amari Cooper is number 2. Dak Prescott's number 3.
Shannon Sharp.
Yes, sir.
You are living in the past, in your Denver past, back in the days when you could run your way to a Super Bowl championship. That was 1998.
7 and 8.
right?
Yes.
Okay, 7 and 8. Last time was 1998. And then rules started changing and game really changed because it became more and more of a passing league because it's like chicks dig the long ball in baseball. They dig the long pass in football, right?
Pass, huh?
Okay. So I'm going to say this one more time and to answer your question. There is nothing but truth in what both Bill Barnwell and Todd Archer wrote on ESPN.com about Amari being more valuable to Dak than Zeke is valuable to Dak. I'm going to state my opinion one more time. I still believe Ezekiel Elliott is the best back in football. You and I have argued about that, and I've always been pro Zeke.
True.
The problem is he doesn't play quarterback. And in this day and age, the quarterback is more valuable, especially when the quarterback is the most underrated clutch closer in football. And I'm going to detail that in just a moment. But he's obviously the leader of this football team. I think Dak Prescott is turning into one of the best leaders in all of football. And in the end, we have to start with the premise that you tried to defeat, which is the Rams gave Todd Gurley way too much money. They dramatically overpaid, and the Cowboys are now having to pay for that because Todd Gurley got, as you know, 4 years, $57.5 million. 45 of that is guaranteed, and 14.4 is the average per year. That is too much, overvaluing a running back position that most people devalue.
Okay.
So the classic happened. C.J. Anderson, I love C.J. We had him on the show. Good guy. Once a Denver Bronco. He's had a history of running over my Dallas Cowboys. But he tried to run over the Cowboys in the opener for the Carolina Panthers, and he went 7 carries for 35 yards. Not bad, but not great.
Right.
And Carolina was not impressed, and he lasted 9 games for Carolina, and they cut him.
Yes.
And then he sat for a while, and finally, the Oakland Raiders, we saw last night on Hard Knocks, they said, we'll take a shot. And I don't know what didn't happen, but he lasted 6 days, and they cut him. And he went back on his couch for a whole nother week until we get to December 18th, and the Rams, desperate because Todd Gurley, to whom they had given a fortune, started to have creaky knees. I'm not sure how bad they were, if it's arthritic or if he actually tore something. He had a little meniscus tear. I don't know. But he didn't look like himself to the point they needed insurance. So they go pluck a running back off the couch. And let me ask you a question. Could you do that with a quarterback? Could you go get a quarterback on the couch, some backup quarterback, some failed quarterback, and plug him in and have him light it up? It just can't happen. The position's too hard to play.
But Skip, we say this all the time, that the running back is the easiest position to transfer.
Thank you.
Okay. So that doesn't...
I'm not saying they're a dime a dozen, but again, quarterbacks are definitely not a dime a dozen. Sometimes you could plug in a running back, and so they go to Arizona and plug him in. He goes for 167 yards.
Arizona's terrible. You're right, quarterbacks are not a dime a dozen because you don't even have one in that dozen. You don't even have a dozen quarterback.
You're going to eat these.
You don't have a dozen
I'm going to make you eat them right now because then we know what happens the next week. The 49ers, they're not very good either, but he goes for 132. But my Dallas Cowboys had just shut down the #1 running attack in pro football in the first playoff game they played, Seattle's. And what happened? CJ'd all over them, right? He ran them off the field. Jenny went to the game, but I'm going to let her off the foot for that.
I'm never going to get over that. Boy.
Okay, but he went for 123 against my Cowboys.
What did Todd Gurley go for?
He got a few, but 78 were from CJ in the first half, and that was a problem because that dug a hole too deep for Dak Prescott. Okay, so now let's go back to what happened when Amari came, because what were the Cowboys? I'm not going to count the first game that Amari played because it was Tennessee, and he hadn't even practiced with the team. He just got thrown into the game. So give me a break on that one. I'm going to X that one out because that was a debacle.
Okay? No breaks.
That night, my team fell to 3-5. Help me out. Was Ezekiel Elliott healthy and happy for the first 8 games of the year?
Yes.
They fell to 3-5 with Zeke.
Well, who was the quarterback?
Why was that? Who were the receivers? Help me out. Who got the most targets in the first 5 games? Interesting. Would you believe Ezekiel Elliott was the #1 target? He and Cole Beasley alternated for the most targets in those first games. So what does that tell you? He did not have a number one receiver. No quarterback can flourish without a number one, except for Tom. I was going to say, you took the words right out of my mouth. But what happened when Tom Brady got Randy Moss for 2007? Yeah. Records happened. Am I right about that?
True.
So this was his Randy Moss. And I'm not saying Amari's Randy Moss.
And are you saying he's not Tom Brady?
Okay, he is not. But he is definitely Brady-esque.
No,
because all the big games, all the key victories last year,